Week 2 of the NCAA gymnastics season got underway over the weekend, and now with most teams making their debut, we've got a lot of shakeups in the rankings. I'm Brandis Heffner with College Gym News, here with Billman from College Gym News, and we're going to break down the Week 2 power rankings. Starting off with the team rankings, we don't have a change up top as the two-time defending national champion Sooners are number 1. But Claire, we've got a lot of movement 2 through 6, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. Cal really came out firing on all cylinders, kind of surprised some people, probably not themselves, but they were about as good as I've ever seen them in the final session of the Sprouts Farmers Market Collegiate Quad. I think I said that right. Um, yeah, they led by Maya Lauzon. They were just lights out, set numerous records, and it was a pretty spectacular evening. And then Alabama had their first home meet of the season and were about as good as they were in week 1. So currently they're the only SEC team that has scored a 197 both weeks. So they're bringing up the top of the rankings right behind Cal. But then Kentucky, kind of the Wildcats there. They really turned up the juice against Auburn, upset them on the road, and posted one of the highest scores. I believe it was the fourth highest score of the week, a 197.475. So that's pretty outstanding for them. And they seem to be pushing to a return trip to nationals this year.
Absolutely. It's a team I feel like they usually get off to a slower start to the season, and Raina Worley's got them
Yes.
on fire to start.
Historically, they've until last year, they've always been that bubble team that kind of was right there, but never put all the pieces together. They would usually start the season mid 196 range, and they're just really they're dialing in on the landings. Their fundamentals are looking sharp, so they are really pushing. And then Michigan obviously had some issues in week 1, didn't even manage to crack the 196 mark, which was a surprise to a lot of folks, but they came out hot this week at home against Stanford. And yeah, they posted the 197.725 that we're more accustomed to seeing from them. And then on the flip side, Utah unfortunately couldn't quite get all the pieces together. And so they ended up with a 196.975, which still keeps them in the top of the rankings, but not what they not what they're used to posting.
Especially at a de facto home meet right out there.
Yes,
right out
that was the big thing, is they're in Salt Lake City. All the, yes, they're against Oklahoma, UCLA, LSU, but they're at home. They've got that home crowd. So it was a little bit surprising to see them falter.
Definitely surprising to see them kind of not live up to the pressure like we normally see from the Red Rocks. And then,
well, and especially after their week 1 performance, they were so strong. They looked really sharp. And so this was just a little bit of a nervy performance for them.
For sure. And then right on the cusp here, we've got Clemson. You were actually in South Carolina this weekend for that program debut. What'd you see from the Tigers that you liked?
Well, I had a front row seat, and I was absolutely blown away. First and foremost, they came out with 5 lineup ready 10.0 start value vaults. I know that's been something that's been a little bit of a concern for folks. Everybody's saying, well, they're not going to be able to push for those top teams because their vaults they don't have those high start values like some of the other Big 5 or Power 5 programs. Well, surprise, they do. They competed 5 and have 3 more in the works. So the Tigers posted the highest opening or program debut of all time with a 196.325. And frankly, I thought that was a little low. The scoring was very stingy. I think they easily could have been right under 197 on a different or with a different judging panel. So expect them to do some big things. They're coming out just firing on all cylinders.
Absolutely. I think having 5 10.0 start values to even start off your program is insane and just bodes so well for them to make the postseason. So moving on to the all-around rankings, we've got a little bit of a shakeup here too, as we had some Cal standouts, excel at the ESPN Collegiate Quad over the weekend, and a surprise winner of that premiere session too, with Haley Bryant, Selena Harris, Faith Torres, and the rest of the Sooners competing.
Yeah. So MJ Frazier from Cal, who obviously is the sister of UCLA standout Margzetta Frazier, she posted not only her career high, but she posted a program record for Cal with a 39.775. And unfortunately for her teammate Maya Lauzon, who posted a 39.751 routine before, and briefly had the record for all of 5 minutes. But both of them, they were just phenomenal and looked really postseason ready right out of the gate. And yeah, so they were certainly two of the ones to watch. And then in that earlier session that had Bryant, Selena Harris, Faith Torres. Selena Harris actually came out on top, which was, I won't say surprising, because obviously she's pretty fantastic. But she's had a lot more pressure than I think the other two gymnasts. She's really had to step up as the leader for the Bruins now that Jordan Childs is not in the picture anymore. And she's handled the pressure beautifully. And so she had a very, very solid 39.65, edging out Bryant, who had her usual 39.625, because that's what Haley Bryant does, is just
every single week.
gives you 9.9s on every single event, every single week. And then, of course, Faith Torres, the Oklahoma sophomore, is really looking fantastic. You know, she was good last year, of course. It's not that we aren't used to seeing her be great, but she's been much more confident. She's looking much more like a polished veteran gymnast. And she even beat out three of her teammates, excuse me. So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, super exciting to see her, blossom into one of the Sooners leaders, despite
Absolutely.
the stacked roster that they always have.
And then, of course, we can't leave out Sierra Brooks from Michigan. She really struggled in week one. I think had like a 39.2, which is certainly not what we're used to seeing from her. But she she proved all the doubters wrong and turned in her best performance maybe ever. And if nothing else, she set a new record for Michigan with a 39.85. So I think she got, let's see, she had a 10 on floor, 9.975s on vault and beam, and then a 9.9 on bars. So really outstanding work from her, and great to see that she's still got it. In her 5th year, she hasn't lost a step.
No, not at all. And, speaking of 9.975s on vault, we had plenty this weekend with Brooks one. We had one from Victoria Henry from Ball State. And then I watched Maya Lauzon stick her Yurchenko 1.5 for another 9.975. That kind of was the catalyst of her all-around performance. Who do we kind of got in the middle there of our power rankings this week?
Yeah. So Sage Kellerman from Michigan State, of course, topped last week's rankings with that first vault 10 of the year. And she had a pretty similar vault this week, just had a tiny little scoop back. So she only got a 9.925, which is still pretty darn good. Haley Bryant and Shay Campbell, they're just two of the best blocks in college gymnastics, maybe of all time. And they both turned in 9.9s due to a little bit of landing adjustments, but still look pretty fantastic in the air. So those are the ones you need to keep an eye out, because they don't miss. And then we also got some freshmen actually sneaking in with big scores. Cal's Kyan Mayhew, who's a former 5-star recruit, she set up her teammates, Maya Lauzon and MJ Frazier, with a very nice Yurchenko 1.5 that she stuck cold and got a 9.95. And then another former 5-star recruit, Hannah Schiebel from Oklahoma, she's got a front handspring pike half, just like Bryant and Kellerman, which is pretty unusual for the Sooners. I don't think they've had one since Audrey Lynn. So that was pretty cool to see that, breaking up all of the otherwise perfect Yurchenko 1.5s. And she did another fantastic job. So I wouldn't be surprised to see her going later and later in that Sooners lineup as the season progresses.
Yeah, it's really kind of been the year of the front pike half on vault, with, a lot of them breaking through here in the rankings, between Kellerman, Bryant, Suki Feister, Mackenzie Wilson, and the whole Kentucky lineup. So
the entire
really, great. Love to see the variety in vaults there.
Bring it on.
And then moving over to bars, on top of the rankings over here, we have Jade Carey, who's the reigning Olympic floor champion and really known
Yeah,
for her prowess on the leg events.
right.
How is she making this happen?
Well, you know what? She's struggled in elite, I think, because of the length and the difficulty requirements. She is really built for college bars. I mean, she's got very strong fundamentals. Her execution is generally good. And she certainly has the air awareness to stick that dismount every single time. She did again this week. She got her second consecutive 9975. This one was a lot more, in my opinion, convincing than last week's. There were some noticeable form errors during her routine last week. Not this time around. She was perfect. Her legs were completely glued together throughout the whole thing. And then once again, she nailed that dismount. So it was a very well-deserved 9975. Yeah. And Audrey Davis, speaking of 9975, she is the reigning queen of that almost but not quite perfect 10. She struggled a little bit in week 1, but turned in maybe her best performance of her career this week. She still didn't get that perfect 10, unfortunately, but I don't really know what else she could do.
I think I read somewhere that it was her ninth 9.975
Yeah.
on bars of her
I mean,
career, which is the most 9.975s on any single event by any gymnast
right.
ever. So, whew.
She really doesn't have any built-in deductions except for that leg separation, the cowboying on her dismount. So I understand what the judges are taking, but it's certainly not any worse than anything else that is being given a perfect 10. And it's better than pretty much the rest of the field otherwise. So hopefully she'll get the right judges on the right day for too long.
Talk to me about those, fifth year SEC girls we had there at 2 and
Oh
3,
yeah.
Blanco and
Oh
Raina
my
Worley.
goodness. Blanco and Worley. Luisa Blanco, who recently qualified for the Olympics as part of the Colombian delegation. She is known mostly, I think, for her beam work, but she's an outstanding bars worker and has just been really perfect this season so far. She's gotten she's got 995s both weeks, and I don't see any reason why that streak isn't going to be continued. Raina Worley from Kentucky has always, I won't say struggled on bars, but it's never been her strongest event. Well, this off season, she put in the work and it's paying off just spectacularly. She followed up last week's 9975 with a 9925 at Auburn, which honestly, I thought it was better than her week 1 performance. So I think it's kind of a matter of time for her. We're putting her on bars 10 watch, which isn't something that I ever thought I'd say, but
No, not coming into the season, no.
no, she looks fantastic. And then,
And
of course, Selena Harris also got one of those 9925s. And I mean, what else can you say about her? She's just perfect. She holds those handstands longer than anybody. All of her positions are just so precise. And yeah, she's looking great. And then, of course, Cal, we could honestly make a case for putting the entire Cal bars lineup on the power
just
rankings.
marvel at it all day. Yeah.
Yeah. But since we have to pick one, Maddie Williams, she is just exceptional and has such a clean look. Her swing is so easy. It just really looks effortless, even though we know it's not. And so she got yet another 9925.
And then I think, amongst all the 9.975s this week, we did actually have that perfect 10 on bars from Connor McLean. Got redemption on her church to Max Salto. That connection week 1, got it this week, and earned the first perfect 10 of her career for someone who's going to contend for the Olympic team this coming season.
Like Jade Carey, she's always struggled a little bit in elite on bars. That hasn't been her strength. Well, it's certainly a strength in college. She has such beautiful execution, and she just really focuses on making sure those details are as perfect as possible. And yeah, what else can you say? She came into this year with literally the whole world watching her. The entire gymnastics world is focused on this kid, and she is just handling it beautifully. And so yeah, expect to see more good things from her. And And last but certainly not least, we're moving down over to D3. Obviously the scoring there tends to be a little lower. The judging tends to be a little tighter. But Westchester's Jordan Coleman, who's a junior, she had been their school record holder for bars and had notched a 9.9 previously, or excuse me, a 9.85 previously. Well, she turned in just this fantastic performance that got a well-deserved 9.925, which is the highest score on any event in school history. So that was very cool to see.
Yeah, it's incredible to see an athlete from D3 where not a lot of routines even start out of a 10,
Right.
reach that 9.9 threshold. It's just incredible to watch.
And that's the thing with her, like her routine from start to finish is just jam-packed with difficulty. She's got this beautiful piked Jaeger release and pirouettes and all these big skills that it's not just the boilerplate Maloney pack full pirouette double tuck that we're seeing in a lot of D1 routines. Like it was a very difficult routine and she performed it just perfectly. So
yeah, just incredible. Unique. Awesome accomplishment.
Yeah.
All right. And then moving over to Beam, we have a major shakeup in the rankings as Beam Miley O'Keefe's 10 streak ended as her side aerial layout step out got the best of her this weekend.
I know. This is a multi-season streak. I guess all streaks have to come to an end, but it was a little sad, and I know it was frustrating for her, but honestly, that was pretty much the only mistake in that routine. So I'm sure she'll be back at the top of the rankings in no time. The number 2 from last week, Brooklyn Rowray from Minnesota, unfortunately had an injury in warmups. And so she's going to be sidelined indefinitely. We still don't know what her status is for the rest of the season. But we hate to see her gone and hope she has a quick recovery. Straightforward.
She's still ready for breakout.
Yeah, because she is poised to break out. And so I hope that she gets to finish up what was looking to be a very promising season. And then the number 3 from last week, Reagan Smith, former Olympic alternate, who's a 5th year at Oklahoma, also had a fall like O'Keefe. It just kind of, that is unusual. She just slipped off. It wasn't anything glaring. So in that, because those top 3 spots opened up, we've got Aaliyah Finnegan from LSU jumping up to the top spot. Like Luisa Blanco, she is an Olympic qualifier already. She's competing for the Philippines this time around. And she's really known for her stellar beam work. She's got some of the most difficult skills and combinations being competed right now. And she always just delivers perfect execution and poise, which is something that LSU's beam lineup has really needed so far this season. Once again, she came out with just a lights out anchor routine, which kept LSU from having to count 2 falls. They still had to count 1, but that hit really allowed LSU to pull it together and break 197 despite having to count a fall.
Oh, absolutely. That the back handspring layout, step out is not always just secure on the beam, but always secures that lineup. So
and she takes it right to the edge, right to the end.
No room to spare.
Nobody does it better. Although Sienna Schreiber's is pretty darn close. Like Finnegan, she is really that stabilizing force for her team's beam lineup. Mizzou is taking a little bit of time to get their footing, so to speak. But Schreiber has just been sending in her best both weeks, and this was no exception. She's another one of those like Worley where how has she not gotten a 10 already? Because it seems so effortless and automatic. So hopefully that's coming for her. And then let's see, Ellie Lazzari, another SEC favorite. She of course tore her Achilles a few years ago and did well last season, but not quite as well as what she did in her freshman season. Looks like she's back to top form because she turned in a 9.975, which is something that Florida is recovering from not having Trinity Thomas in the lineup, not having Kayla DiCello in the lineup, and so having someone as consistent and reliable and gorgeous as Ellie Lazzari doing you know, posting those big numbers for you, that's something that the Gators are really going to lean into this season.
For sure, seeing that kind of score in her season debut is a very encouraging sign for things to
Yes.
come for her.
I
And
am
then
thrilled.
we also had another 9.975 in their season debut, and this time from a freshman.
Not just season debut, Brandis. This was her collegiate debut. Courtney McCann from Ohio State did not compete last week, which is a bummer because I was at that meet and I was hoping to see her. But she certainly delivered this week. Hopped up and just gave what a natural, organic performance. It just looked like she was meant to be up there, that she was just taking a walk and decided, oh, I'm just going to casually do this flawless beam routine. And I don't know what they took from her. I've watched that routine 5 times and I can't find the deduction. So she got a 9975, and I'm sure she'll get that 10 before too long.
Right. What a career debut on beam.
I know.
And then we also can't forget about Oklahoma's Faith Torres, who's been really showing
No.
the Sooners always stout beam lineup.
Yeah. Well, and the thing it is not easy to stand out in that Sooners lineup because they have probably 10 beam routines that could go out and score in the 9.9s. But Miss Torres is really stealing the spotlight from high-profile beamers like Reagan Smith, like Audrey Davis, even Jordan Bowers, who didn't start out as a beamer, but KJ Kindler has made her one. Yeah, Faith has one of those super difficult combinations, the side aerial to lay out, step out, just like Miley O'Keefe. And she has just beautiful extension. Everything is completely extended throughout every skill, throughout her leaps. She's dialed back the difficulty just a touch. And I think it's really working for her. So I know fans will be disappointed not to see that double back dismount anymore, but if she gets a 10, it's, you got to play the game a little bit. So.
Oh, for sure. And then speaking of 10s, we had one on beam this week as well as Cal's MJ Frazier.
I did not have that on my bingo card. But
neither did I. Again, known for her vault and floor prowess. She's finding ways to excel elsewhere.
Yeah, she's looking so polished and mature. She has always had talent, always had skill, of course, competitive drive, but this year she's just looking very much the veteran. And yeah, that was an unbelievable beam routine, particularly her dismount. She's got that really cool cartwheel back 1.5, which I can't think of anybody else who does that. I don't know how she does it,
yeah.
But it was perfect. So very, very fun to see her get that, unexpected to us, probably not to her or her coaches, get that 10. And then there were also a handful of 9.975s. As we mentioned before, Sierra Brooks had just a stellar all-around performance. And one of the main reasons why was this beam performance. She's got such difficulty with that triple series and then her double back dismount. So beam can be a little bit of a bugaboo for her because she's got so many hard things that she has to do perfectly that leave a lot of room for deductions, but not this week. And then Sid Morris, who is a sophomore at LIU, turned in just a beautiful debut. They do these really cool pike jumps instead of the typical split leaps that you see from, or straddle positions that you see from a lot of gymnasts.
Way better than a wolf jump.
There was a wolf jump too, yeah. So it's fun to see something a little different get rewarded. So expecting big things from Sid this season. They qualified to NCAA, or excuse me, regionals last year. And I'm hoping this year, if this score is any indication, could challenge for a national spot this year.
I think they definitely have the ability to do so. Yeah. They're so much fun to watch on beam. So
absolutely.
Then taking a look at the floor rankings, we've talked already about Sierra Brooks and her floor 10 that really propelled her to her record all-around score. We also had a floor 10 from another Big Ten floor star in Maya Hooten, a place she's been before many times. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This was Hooten's 4th perfect 10 on floor, I believe. And she did edge out Brooks for the first Big Ten floor, or the first Big Ten floor 10 of the year. So that, I know there's a little bit of back and forth competition between those two. So Maya fired the first shots. And yeah, she looked great last season. You know, there were occasionally she would have a little bit of trouble getting her leap series around. It looked great this year. Her positions were really sharp. And of course, her tumbling and performance quality are always just exemplary. So I'm sure this will not be her last 10 of the year. And yeah, and another Big Ten coming in at number 2, just behind Hooten, Ella Hodges from Ohio State. I won't grow a surprise entry because she's always been very good on floor, but she's just really stealing the spotlight this year. And when she was at LSU last week, you couldn't help but watch her. You know, the PMAC is they're watching they're not there to see the other team. They're there to see the Tigers, but everybody just had to stop and see Ella Hodges do her thing. And so this week back at home, she delivered an almost identical performance and got a 995. And I'm very Lauzon in California at that Sprouts meet that you were at, Brandis.
Yes.
She bookended her all-around performance with that 9975 on vault, got another one on floor, and she's looking better than ever. It's a lot of fun to see her moving into that breakout role as an all-arounder for the Bears. And then
sure, progress on floor has been a really big part of what's made her such a strong all-arounder to start the year.
Yeah. And I mean, she's always had the potential to put those big numbers up. It just hasn't been consistent. And she has been consistent so far. So expecting more big numbers from her as the season goes on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Leah Finnegan from LSU also got a 9975.
In her floor debut. Here.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's just so much fun to watch. And, you know, as much trouble as the Tigers have been having on beam, that hasn't carried over to floor. And so she's had the luxury of getting to go out there and, you know, there's no pressure. I just get to go out and have fun. I get to really lay it all out. And she has. In week 1, she missed the connection to the stag jump out of her tuck double Arabian. And this week it was perfect. And so if she can get that connection, I think we'll see more big numbers like that 9975.
For sure. And then, you know, you want to talk consistency. We've got Jocelyn Moore from Missouri. Seems like she's always scoring in that 9-9 range, you know, anchoring that lineup for the Tigers.
I was actually a little confused by her score. You know, I watched that meet and I watched the other routines that scored comparably and was just like, wait, that one, there was a little thing here. I understand why they got a 9-9. What happened with Jocelyn Moore? Like, she's just such an incredible performer, but she doesn't sacrifice her technique or her execution. So her tumbling was spot on. Her landings were just completely controlled, in addition to having those massive leaps and gorgeous performance. So I'm not quite sure where the deduction was, but
that's why they don't ask us. Yeah.
Yeah, right. There's a reason I'm not a judge. No, she looked wonderful, and I'm expecting that number to go up as the season progresses.
For sure, for sure. And then, you know, Arkansas was one of those teams that had a really strong debut this week. And a big reason why was their floor lineup. Jordan Weaver, one of the best floor coaches in the country, has got, you know, 2 of our honorable mentions right here on her team.
Right. I think a lot of people weren't sure what to expect from the Razorbacks this year because it is a very young team. They only have a handful of upperclassmen. And so far, that doesn't seem to be a bad thing. Frankie Price and Lauren Williams, both of whom are sophomores, have really stepped up and established themselves as team leaders. And so they were both great on vault. Williams turned in a really nice beam performance. And then they brought down the house with a pair of 995s. The commentators and the crowd were calling for a 10. And I think that's not unreasonable. They're coming. If they keep up that level of performance and precision, I think it's just a matter of time.
Absolutely. Well, that is all we've got for you guys wrapping up the power rankings this week. I'm Brandis Heffner. This is Claire Billman. And with plenty of more exciting matchups this coming weekend, like Oklahoma, Stanford, UCLA at Denver. We've got Pittsburgh and Clemson. We've got Arkansas and Alabama. We're sure to see plenty more shakeups in the coming weeks.
And probably some more 9975s.
Surely more 9975s, as always.